For thousands of years, rats have lived in the shadows of human civilization. They have traveled on ships, hidden beneath marketplaces, survived wars, crossed deserts, and adapted to cities faster than almost any other animal. To most people, they are nothing more than unwanted pests, creatures to avoid and forget. Yet history is rarely shaped only by kings, warriors, or famous inventors. Sometimes the smallest lives leave the deepest marks. This is the untold story of a single rat whose journey quietly influenced the course of history. Whether remembered as a survivor, a messenger, or an accidental hero depends on who tells the tale. But one thing is certain: without this ordinary-looking creature, the world might have turned out very differently. The story begins in a crowded medieval port where hundreds of wooden ships arrived every month, carrying silk, spices, grain, and precious metals from distant lands. The docks were alive with merchants shouting prices, sailors unloading heavy cargo, and craftsmen repairing damaged vessels. Hidden beneath the piles of food and inside dark wooden barrels lived countless rats, feeding on scraps and avoiding the watchful eyes of cats. Among them was a young brown rat, unlike the others. Smaller than most, but unusually curious, it constantly explored places that even older rats feared. While the colony fought over food, this little rat searched for new tunnels, climbed ropes leading to ship decks, and learned to escape danger by observing human behavior. Survival was its greatest teacher. One cold evening, a violent storm struck the harbor. Massive waves smashed against the wooden piers, while powerful winds tore sails from anchored ships. Sailors rushed to secure their cargo before the storm destroyed everything they owned. During the chaos, one heavily loaded merchant ship broke free from its ropes and drifted toward the open sea. Hidden deep inside the ship's storage room, the young rat found itself trapped. When the storm finally ended, the ship had already traveled far from the harbor, carrying the frightened animal toward lands it had never imagined existed. Weeks passed as the vessel crossed dangerous waters. Food became scarce, and many of the crew grew weak from sickness and exhaustion. The rat survived by eating scattered grains and drinking drops of fresh water leaking from wooden barrels. Every night it explored the ship more boldly. One evening, while running through the captain's cabin, it discovered something unusual. A folded map had fallen beneath a table after the storm. Strong winds blowing through an open window threatened to carry the map into the sea. The rat unknowingly dragged part of the parchment while searching for nesting material. When the captain returned, he noticed the displaced map and realized an important navigation route had almost been lost forever. Without that map, the crew could have sailed directly into dangerous reefs hidden beneath the ocean's surface. No one thanked the rat because no one even knew it had prevented disaster. Months later, the ship reached a distant kingdom, famous for its skilled engineers and remarkable libraries. As merchants unloaded their cargo, the curious rat escaped into the bustling city. Unlike its old home, this place was filled with stone buildings, underground water channels, and enormous warehouses. Every corner offered new opportunities for exploration. It wasn't long before the rat entered an old monastery where scholars spent their days copying valuable books by candlelight. Among the stacks of ancient manuscripts rested a small leather pouch containing letters between influential rulers discussing an alliance that could end years of bloody conflict. Late one night, a fire accidentally broke out in the monastery's storage room after a candle tipped over. Flames spread quickly across dry wooden shelves, filling the building with thick smoke. Monks rushed desperately to rescue priceless books before the entire library was consumed. During the confusion, the leather pouch slipped from a table and landed near the frightened rat. Startled by the smoke and heat, the animal grabbed the pouch with its teeth and dragged it through a narrow tunnel beneath the stone floor, trying only to escape the flames. Hours later, after the fire had finally been extinguished, workers discovered the pouch hidden near the tunnel entrance. Inside were the only surviving copies of the diplomatic letters. Those documents later reached the leaders they were intended for, helping negotiations continue instead of collapsing completely.
Historians would eventually praise wise diplomats for preserving peace, never realizing that a frightened rat had unknowingly protected the documents that made those negotiations possible.
As the years passed, stories spread throughout the city about mysterious moments of unbelievable luck. Sailors escaped storms after finding missing maps. Important messages thought destroyed somehow reappeared. Valuable treasures were discovered in unexpected places. Few people noticed that a small brown rat often appeared nearby shortly before each remarkable event. To humans, it remained invisible, blending into shadows, forgotten almost as quickly as it appeared. Yet its simple instinct to survive continued placing it at the center of extraordinary moments. The rat eventually grew older, its fur losing the shine of youth and its movements becoming slower. Still, curiosity never left it. One autumn evening, while exploring newly built underground tunnels beneath the city, it overheard workers discussing cracks forming beneath a large stone bridge used daily by thousands of people. Engineers believed the bridge was safe enough to survive another season, but hidden beneath the foundation, the rat sensed loose stones shifting with every passing wagon. Trusting its instincts, it refused to nest there, instead leading many other rats away through older tunnels. The sudden disappearance of hundreds of rats from beneath the bridge caught the attention of a local mason, who found the unusual behavior strange enough to inspect the foundation more carefully. What he discovered would soon astonish the entire city.
The mason's inspection revealed a terrifying truth. Years of underground water erosion had weakened the bridge's foundation far more than anyone had imagined. Several massive support stones had shifted, leaving dangerous gaps beneath the structure. Engineers immediately ordered the bridge closed, despite criticism from merchants who feared losing valuable trade. Workers spent weeks reinforcing the foundations with new stone and timber. Just days after the repairs began, a section of the old foundation collapsed into the river below. Had the bridge remained open, hundreds of travelers, merchants, horses, and wagons would have plunged into the rushing water. The city celebrated the wisdom of its engineers, yet the first warning had come from an unexpected source, a colony of rats following the instincts of one aging survivor.
Years passed, and kingdoms continued to rise and fall. Wars were fought, borders changed, and new rulers claimed their place in history. Throughout these events, the little brown rat remained unnoticed, living quietly in the spaces between human achievements. It had no understanding of politics, wealth, or power. It simply searched for food, avoided danger, and followed its natural curiosity. Yet those simple actions repeatedly placed it where history was quietly changing direction. One winter, the rat wandered into the workshop of a young inventor who dreamed of building machines unlike anything the world had ever seen. The inventor had spent months designing a complicated water-powered mechanism. Every attempt ended in failure because a small wooden gear refused to fit properly into the machine. Frustrated, he left his workshop one evening, convinced his invention would never work. During the night, the rat entered the workshop searching for scraps of grain. While climbing across the workbench, it accidentally knocked the troublesome gear onto the floor. The wooden piece rolled beneath the table, where the inventor discovered it the following morning. Looking at the gear from a different angle, he suddenly realized he had been installing it upside down all along. Within hours, the machine operated perfectly for the first time. That invention later inspired improved water systems that supplied cleaner drinking water to thousands of people across nearby towns. The inventor became famous, while the tiny creature responsible for the breakthrough disappeared back into the shadows. As the rat grew older, its adventures became fewer. Its eyesight weakened, and every journey required more effort than before. Younger rats often ignored the old survivor, believing its cautious behavior was simply a sign of age. They could never know the incredible path it had traveled, from storm-tossed ships and burning libraries to hidden tunnels and historic workshops. The old rat carried no trophies and received no rewards. History had no page reserved for creatures like it. One peaceful evening, the rat climbed onto a stone wall overlooking the busy city. Children laughed in the streets below. Merchants sold goods from distant lands. Church bells echoed across the rooftops, and ships filled the harbor, exactly as they had many years earlier. The city had grown stronger, wealthier, and safer. Thousands of lives continued because of events no one could fully explain. The old rat watched quietly as the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, unaware that its remarkable journey was nearing its end. When the rat finally died, no crowds gathered, no monuments were built, no songs were written. Nature simply continued its endless cycle. New generations of rats filled the tunnels beneath the city, and humans continued writing history as they always had, recording the names of kings, generals, explorers, and inventors, while overlooking the countless invisible forces that had helped shape their success.
Centuries later, historians studying old records noticed a curious pattern. Again and again, important events seemed to depend on impossible coincidences. A missing map recovered just in time, priceless letters surviving a devastating fire, a bridge inspected moments before collapse, and a life-changing invention completed after an unexpected accident. None of these stories mentioned a small brown rat. Yet some scholars quietly wondered whether history is influenced not only by great leaders, but also by ordinary creatures whose actions pass unnoticed. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of this forgotten tale. The world is not shaped only by those whose names appear in books. Sometimes the smallest life can create the largest ripple. A single unnoticed decision, an accidental movement, or a simple instinct to survive can influence thousands of futures. Great changes often begin where no one is looking.
The untold story of the rat that changed history is not really about one animal. It is about the hidden connections that bind every living thing together. It reminds us that importance is not measured by size, fame, or power. Even the smallest creature may leave footprints across history that no one notices until centuries have passed. And somewhere, beneath the noise of civilization, another small life may already be changing tomorrow's history, one quiet step at a time.